Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the New Fashion Conservatives. I'm Justin Phillips, and with me is one of the 10 to 12 Robin Boss's strongest soldiers who are running the Shadow Governor Boss X account. And we're coming to you live from the Francesca Hong Autonomous Zone. So out of the 10 to 12 people running the account, Shadow Gov, how are you doing tonight?
I am doing fantastic. Couldn't be better. I'm feeling the warmth of collectivism very much is probably upon us. I know that Madison is probably, I don't know what they're doing. They're probably getting a little maybe rioty, but I don't know. It seems like they've been at bay for the most part, or if they they're certainly trying to hide it based off of some of the people that are live streaming stuff there. Seems like they're mainly behaving themselves, despite blocking off entire streets in the city of Madison, enabling it. But I won't get out in front of the rest of the show.
We'll get to that in a minute. But there's a couple things that had to hit the cutting room floor from our last episode that we wanted to get to tonight. Before, of course, yes, we talk about the shooting of Corey Ruiz and Madison, basically turning over the city to the protesters. And the one thing that really stood out to me, besides that, is David Crowley kept making the Dirk McGrik situation worse. And he went on WISN and tried to again downplay it, says he one of 10 to 12 people that was on it, even though a little bit of research shows that he posted 4 to 5 posts about him celebrating his 24th birthday at the exact time that David Crowley's was having his 24th birthday. So it just, at this point, he has just dug the hole so deep by trying to explain it, by trying to, not own it and try to blame other people and say, oh, it wasn't really me. Like, at this point, you've done so much more damage and made it such a longer story.
Well, and for those that didn't know, this is a little bit of backstory to a different situation where David Crowley backed out of the Muslim Civic Alliance debate. And for obvious reasons, where they're probably going to ask him some things that he doesn't want to answer for a potential general election. And the excuse that he used, instead of saying I had a scheduling conflict, just be like, he said that he was like sick and that he was worried his basement was going to flood. So, bro, just say you had a scheduling conflict. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
Like, everyone uses the cop out. Anyone that has interacted with a 5-year-old before understands that when you add a bunch of extra details, they might be fibbing a little bit. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, did you do this? No, I didn't, because I was doing this, this, and this. It's like, guys, this is the oldest trick in the book, and everyone knows it. So yeah, he keeps on trying to. The posts were very offensive, but I just want everybody to realize that, this wasn't me. That was many other people on there, and kind of gives these convoluted, super, there is you can overthink questions and answers. And sometimes politicians get in their head and they have to do this elaborate workaround, dancing around the issue. And that's what Crowley is doing with this story. And frankly, as we kind of talked in the last episode, we don't like that people are held to these standards from 15 years ago. It's annoying. I mean, it's politics. It is what it is. However, there are worse things he could have said. There are worse things. And he was 24. Probably wasn't thinking about a political future, maybe at the time. Probably like most people, and probably the people in 10, 5, couple years that run for office and are going to experience the same problems. So, yeah. And even some of the liberals online agreed with us and said, just own up to it. I think most voters would probably understand and then move on with it. But now it's become a bigger story than it was when it first dropped. So he's just gotta drop it.
Yeah, I was thinking Dan Schaefer probably hates how much we're liking and retweeting his posts because, we are on the same page with this one. If he just walks it, if he just owns it, just brushes it aside, apologize, move on, voters forgive it. You dig the hole deeper and make these convoluted explanations, you're making it worse.
Yeah. So, but obviously that's kind of it seems like small peanuts compared to everything else that's going on during the rest of the week. But David Crowley, obviously getting back in the race, he said that he raised over $500,000 since re-entering the race. So if that's true, assuming he hasn't spent any of it, that's $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, $800,000. That would instantly put him with the most money on hand. Obviously, he's also buying a bunch of TV as well. We just don't know what it will be here in a couple days. We'll figure out exactly what that'll be. But so everyone's going after David right now.
Yes.
Everyone's trying to ward him off. We think Mandela obviously is the key one. So, and it seems like there was another little tidbit against Crowley too, regarding his little taxpayer paid for security.
Yeah.
The classic, any elected official obviously has some type of security, especially the executives. We saw Sarah Rodriguez had this where she couldn't pay back the state for security. We've seen Mandela Barnes have previous scandals, $800,000 to the state patrol in 2022.
That was because Barnes was using the state patrol like his private Uber service.
Going down to Chicago to party and stuff. $800,000 in security. That's pretty impressive. At least Sarah's was less than $10,000.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Mandela racked up quite the tab. But the same thing is happening to David a little bit. So David obviously being exec, and apparently there wasn't really a contract. There wasn't a formal agreement. It was just kind of like
I'll get you back, bro.
Yeah, or not even like, hey, you're just gonna walk me. You're gonna drive me around, and then maybe I'll get back to you. Maybe not. So that's not a super great look when a politician is using state resources, security, and you get the nice vehicles, armed security, and they obviously are parading you around to your campaign events when you should be paying for gas and mileage and maybe a driver. That's the kind of stuff people don't like. And so obviously, again, another death by 1,000 cuts out to David Crowley.
Yep. And this is, probably one of the reasons he got out of the race is to, he was going to have these sort of things drop, and now it's back out there. But yeah, he apparently had some sort of like, something where he said, he would cover after the election the cost to the taxpayers that was for his security. And like you kick that can down the road, you just hope people forget about it. And after you lose the primary for essentially the second time in a couple of weeks. Now, the other candidate we got to talk about, we talked about this a little bit or hinted at it on the weekday midweek episode, but we didn't quite get to it, is that Joel Brennan apparently is a racist. And we've joked about this before. I've written about this a little bit, that Joel had to answer a question on what's it like being the only white guy in the race. And, he basically said people should be judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. And he hopes that one day that would be true, that a white man could get a fair shake in the Democrat Party. But he put out an attack ad that is trying to highlight the differences between him and Francesca Hong, Mandela Barnes, and David Crowley. And Brennan points out that Hong is a proud socialist. Mandela Barnes has lost statewide before. David Crowley dropped out a couple weeks ago. Now, the only person he didn't talk about and didn't attack was the other white person in the race, and that's Kelda Royce. So now people are out there like Drake Bentley, who seem to be making their bones off being a race hustler, are saying that Joel Brennan's a racist because he's attacking only the candidates of color and not Kelda Royce.
Well, this is completely asinine. This is my least favorite part. Maybe not the least favorite part, but it is one of my least favorite things about the Democrat Party is you can't even criticize anyone of color. I mean, Joel, yes, he is the token white guy. Okay, sure. He understands that that's his lane. Guess who's in first place? Francesca Hong. Who's in second place? Mandela Barnes. Who's definitely going to be in third place? David Crowley. Yep. Kelda is going to be fourth, and obviously Joel's last. Okay. If I'm Joel, you have to attack the top. And guess what? You're fifth, which means you're going to have to attack a few other people. Frankly, Kelda's closer to him than Kelda is to probably third place. So he's probably assuming, well, guess what? I don't really have to attack her, but if I attack everyone else, I'll deal with Kelda later.
Yep.
Essentially.
You think you might actually have internal polling that says you're above Kelda?
Yeah, and you very well might, and so that they might assume that I only need to attack those other three. So this is like, oh gosh, this is the Democrats eating their own, and it's making me upset just because. Obviously, do I care if Joel Brennan gets hit by the race hustlers on this exact thing? No, I frankly don't care. However, they use this on us. Oh, they made a scary ad about Mandela Barnes in 2022. It darkened his skin. Like, gosh, get real. Yep. Are we serious? A black and white filter on a photo or something? Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, there's racism everywhere for the eyes that want to see it.
Yeah,
and there's obviously some people that were very upset by him saying, putting out this ad. There was a statement from the Democrat Party of Wisconsin's Black Caucus Executive Board. It's extremely disappointing that Joel Brennan released an ad saying none of the candidates of color running for governor could win in November, following previous comments in May on this issue. We hope the feedback he's received will readjust campaign message to undo this harm and demonstrate that any Wisconsin, regardless of background, can be elected governor. I think in the year 2026, I think we all understand that anyone can win an election. They're all decided by 30,000 votes. Frankly, I've said if Francesca is the nominee, she's got a 50-50 shot to win. Okay? It has nothing to do with her race or her being a woman or whatever. It's just the fact, Wisconsin elections are very close. So anyone can win. So this is just race hustling, like, at its worst, and I absolutely detest it.
Yeah, but it's also when it's Dems attacking Dems, there's a little bit of Schadenfreude.
Of course.
You have Angela Lang, who's the co-executive director of the Black Leaders Organizing for Communities, the Block by Block group that does the silent canvassing. Nada Kashfi.
It's not even worth trying.
She, put out this lengthy statement, and it felt like that was coordinated with Drake Bentley because he quoted it in an article. And you have, she's the quote unquote chief of staff to Representative Hong in Madison. And I say quote unquote because for anyone who knows, if you are on the minority party in the legislative office, you get 1.5 staff. So she's the chief of staff to herself and a part-timer. Like, not exactly a big office and a lot of duties to spread out, but you want to slap that title on yourself to make you feel better, make you feel more important. She's doing it.
Yeah, well, and Nada put out that statement. It says, and this is what really grinds my gears. It's not grassroots momentum. It's certainly not polling, nor is it fundraising or endorsers. What does Joel Brennan have left that distinguishes him from the other candidates he chose to highlight? He says his centrism. But Joel Brennan is not the only centrist in this race. So it must be his type of centrism. Don't worry, I'm not them, wink, wink, to a certain demographic kind of centrism. Like, just say you hate white people. Like, if you cannot attack another political candidate on legit, like, sure, you might argue about the electability argument of Francesca Mandela or David Crowley. But it's a subjective thing. Okay. He could say anyone's unelectable for any, you can make arguments for each of them. Okay. But the fact that it's just because Joel's the token white guy, you have to attack him, because of that. And you have to convolute something to justify your hatred for white people or whatever. I just have zero tolerance for that crap personally.
But Nada made it worse the other day too, because she went after David Crowley as well, because he's running an ad that attacks the Republican Governors Association for promoting Francesca Hong. And in one of the things he uses there, it's a highlighted word sneaky with the top of Francesca Hong's head, her eyes up, fit into the frame. And apparently
the David Crowley ad. Correct?
Yes, the David Crowley ad uses this. And apparently, according to Nada, sneaky Asian is a stereotype. And
I've never heard this stereotype.
No. This sounds like one that was made up for a BuzzFeed listicle.
I feel like I need to look
stereotypes.
Is this a legitimate thing?
Is it? I don't think so. I've never heard it, and I was really kind of I don't know.
Okay. Sneaky Asian, the act which occurs when a person driving or in the passenger seat of a car looks forward, obviously to the person's seat behind him or her, preferably when the car's in motion. The person in the back seat, Asian, slides an item into the slit between the backrest and the bottom cushion. So, what?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to read the rest of that, but that's the definition.
Yeah. Like I said, this came out of a BuzzFeed white gal.
One who outwits his friends in matters of payment, inspired by the Asian tradition of fighting for the bill at the end of the meal. Like, well, okay. Okay, this is the dumbest. This is the dumbest thing. I don't even understand this totally. I don't understand. Sneaky Asian. So basically, long story short, the only reason she doesn't like it is because if you haven't seen the ad obviously it shows like paper, newspaper clipping, and it says, like, oh, GOP is boosting candidate, and yes, it shows at the very bottom. It shows Francesca's face, and you can see just the top of her face. Okay, and obviously Francesca is of Asian descent, and you can tell that from that, so you know who it is without saying her name, which is a subtle hit. Which I don't know why they're being cutesy with it. Just plaster her face off and said Francesca Hong is horrible or whatever. So she doesn't like that. Okay, but it's not because of a stereotype.
No, and I've never once heard
sneaky
this.
Asian.
Yeah,
what the heck is that?
I think you said
they just make up stuff.
Of course, because that's what the left does. They, when you are a race baiting chief of staff to Francesca Hong, who is aggrieved and offended by anything done by any white person ever.
Well, David Crowley's not even a white guy.
Yeah.
But.
Well, he ran the campaign of a white woman. So
I mean, he did pretty much up until like a week ago. So I mean, it's just whatever. I mean, I'm done. I'm done talking about race scripters now.
Well, not quite.
Well,
we're going to talk about
kind.
But yeah. So I think shortly after, while we were recording our episode, the midweek episode, there was an officer involved shooting in the city of Madison, where it was filmed by some, bystanders. They had a fella who had a lengthy criminal record going back over a decade, was well known to police officers. They were tracking him because apparently he was stealing bikes and looking into cars, trying to break into them. And they made an attempt to arrest him. During that arrest, he pulled out a knife, stabbed at and I think injured an officer. Taser was deployed that was ineffective, and then the individual was shot and killed on scene. And so, of course, when you have someone, now this guy is listed as white or Caucasian in most of the reporting on him and his mugshots and whatnot, even though he is not.
Definitely not.
When you have someone in the minority community shot by a police officer, the reaction, of course, is that it was not justified. It was a murder, and the people, the rabble-rousers, and the anti-white, anti-police left came out in force for the past couple immediately. So that happened on Wednesday, and by Wednesday evening, they were shutting down. These groups of minorities were shutting down concerts on the square, taking over these areas. They had a big, what do you want to call it? A memorial, impromptu memorial for him. Francesca Hong, of course, was right there, spoke at it. We put a couple of those things on X because, she was trying to look as stoic as possible. And Laura Schulte from the Journal Sentinel was taking her picture, and she wanted to make sure she knew that she wanted to look like she wasn't aware that Laura was taking her picture. And then they gave her the bullhorn. And I think, we talked about this last week, that if you're Francesca Hong, you're playing prevent defense right now. All you need to do is make it through the next couple of weeks without saying something woke 1.0 or let 2020 Francesca Hong take over. And she kind of did, because she got the bullhorn and was talking about, we deserve to be safe in our community. And people were like goading her, like demanding she call it a murder. And she didn't say murder, but she said he was executed, which is adjacent. And I think that was a pretty big unforced error by her herself to say, it was an execution when it really wasn't. I think they will find out that this was at least semi-justified, if not completely justified. I mean, he had a knife. He was resisting arrest. They had tried to tase him. It didn't work. He's a well-known criminal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he had a lot. He had a very lengthy rap sheet as well. Mm-hmm. So like, this is not something that's like it's one thing where you have someone that's shot and killed by police, and they have no record. There's nothing on. This is kind of a random thing, but those are so rare. This guy was fighting with police, had a history of fighting with police, and yet somehow, those people are the ones that usually end up in these situations.
Mm-hmm.
But going back real quick before I go back to Corey, I wanted to just say, yeah, she had said when she got the bullhorn, Francesca, she said that this was a state-sanctioned violence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they said, call it what it is, a murder. And you could see, she paused.
Yeah, you could see the wheels turning. That hamster was running on the wheel going, when she was she couldn't decide what direction she could take it, because you knew deep down that she wanted to call this a murder. And this is why we need to defund the police. This is why we need to abolish the police. This is why she wanted to go into it. And she was fighting those urges because she probably knew that she couldn't say what she actually believes and get elected in November. But she also had to say something that would keep the crowd on her side.
Well, and she put out a campaign statement where she used execution. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. My thing is how is execution somehow better than murder?
Yeah, it's not.
It's, I guess
it's indistinguishable.
I guess murder is just more colloquially, like people understand murder a little bit more like premeditated, where execution is, we just don't use execution as much, but colloquially to the average BLMer, it's the same thing. But just some background on Corey Ruiz too. Mm-hmm. So this is Dan Lennington put this little thread out. It was really great. Ruiz was first charged in 2007 at age 19. The criminal cases in Dane County files span 17 years. Okay. Across 25 individual Dane County criminal cases, he was charged with 86 separate crimes. Okay. His most common were a resisting arrest 11 times, disorderly conduct 10, bail jumping 12, battery 7, theft 7, possession of cocaine or THC 6, strangulation, suffocation 3, vehicle theft 3 times. Okay, so this guy's got a huge rap sheet. And of course, despite all the volume of charges, the sentences of confinement were actually pretty short. In 2008, 10 days. 2009, 4 months. Between 2011 to 15, multiple 30-day stints in jail. 2014, 1 year after probation revocation. 12 months here, actually. So we're starting to get kind of longer. And then he had a 2.5 year sentence with 3 years extended supervision for his resisting officer, causing substantial bodily harm. And then in 2021, 13 months state prisons with 24 months extended supervision. So this is a guy just
constantly revolving door.
As soon as he gets out, he gets in trouble again. Okay. And we're talking not once, not twice. we're a huge rap sheet. And of course, back to that thing that you said about him being labeled a Caucasian. That's true. 100%. And it wasn't just once, 5 times. The court listed him as Caucasian, which raises some issues about counting crimes, but that's maybe for a different podcast.
That's one of the reasons why, even the police force in Madison is progressive and woke and they're doing those things to make sure that crime statistics don't reflect reality. So there's so many angles we can take on this. So I think we just got to bite them off one by one. One of the things I want to mention, and I wrote about this at length at the Heartland Post, is the fact that the only videos we have of this are a couple of shaky cam bystanders, phone filming on their phone, and you ask why don't they have body cams? And the fact is, Madison police have wanted to have body cams for a long time now, like even pre 2020. They've wanted to have, it goes back to 2015. They tried to, the council rejected a body cam pilot program 19-1 in 2017. It removed the $123,000 capital budget item that would have funded 47 cameras. They tried a pilot program in 2023 to study it, and there were 4 to test it out. And what they found is after that deployment, that police responses, police interactions didn't change because they had body cameras on. Because as it turns out,
the police were already doing a pretty decent job.
Exactly. But I want to point out that one of the people who has been leading this charge and has been there anti-body cam from the beginning is our favorite Culver's socialist, Juliana Bennett, who is running a terminally online candidacy to replace Francesca Hong. And I just saw, I don't know if you saw this one, there's another individual, they, them, she, it,
running for that seat. I'm aware.
And Dina Nina, I think is the name or something
Rutherford Martinez. You gotta say the whole name.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just Dina Nina. Dina Nina Rutherford Martinez.
Well, this individual of trans origin, I think, like Julia Bennett probably needs to drop out of that race because she is not high enough up on the
victimhood status.
Exactly. I mean, she's only quote unquote queer and a minority.
Did she say she's queer?
I think she's, yeah. But so I mean, she's not trans.
Queer minority, whereas
trans minority, purple hair.
I mean, the trans though is like that's the the only thing that would make it better is if they were Muslim. Yeah, because then it's Muslim, trans, black,
and of course
a minority.
Yeah,
that's the ultimate victimhood hierarchy. So, yeah, Julia Bennett's got some work to do in that.
Even in post 2020 and the shadow of the George Floyd Summer of Love riots, they still wouldn't put body cams on their police officers. And that's how it's like, it's so far woke. It's kind of coming back around. It's like on the horseshoe side of politics, in that they didn't want to put body cameras on because then it would show that the people committing the crimes are deserving the punishments and doing things wrong. And that would not reflect the progressive values they have, even though police transparency was for a long time a progressive value and something that they wanted, and now they actually don't, because that means that police might actually be vindicated.
Yeah, this is how progressive Madison is. Yeah, you're right. The horseshoe theory has reached its conclusion. It's now just a circle where, it was the libs were all about progressive, transparency. And like, yes, we should have transparency in our police. They have a lot of power. They should be held to a higher standard. But the original pushback to body cams from like the right was they're going to use body cams to come after cops. Well, it turns out this was the biggest own goal in the history of own goals, in that police did a pretty good job in doing their job. And in fact, body cams showed that they were even doing an exceptional job, even better than most people thought they were. And then on top of all of that, there are now TikTok accounts, Instagram accounts. I might be a frequent viewer of those accounts that just post body cam footage. Some of the most insane stuff that you listen and hear, and you're like, these people should be making double what they're making.
The immense patience that some of those cops, like, I watched some of those videos and I'm like, he should have been hit over the head with his club 15 minutes ago. Like, you should have been tased already. And the patience that these officers have, and it's not just the body cams, but Madison did ban some of those holds. They call them quote unquote choke holds, but are things that would subdue a criminal without doing it. And that's why I think this escalated. And I think people might want to reflect on this a bit more. You might see people like Juliana Bennett actually have the blood of Corey Ruiz on their hands. I'm not going to say she, was responsible for it, but there were steps that could have been taken by the aldermanic, the alderman of Madison to prevent situations like this. And they, again, chose to be progressive and woke, and so far so that they didn't want them using those chokeholds or those things.
Well, if I'm Juliana Bennett, first of all, I'm crapping my pants because Dina Nina is going to come and at least hopefully will come after you about holding up these body cams. But think about this, going back to Corey himself. All we know is what the police have told us in the press conference. And this was historically, this is what happened before body cameras were put everywhere. And honestly, I can't think of many other police forces that don't have body cameras. Madison is a holdout.
It's one of the largest cities that don't have body cams.
And maybe there's like something like Seattle or something. I feel like it's probably the same. But anyway, what we have is the police report, or not the police report, but what the police have said in the press conferences. They said they got a call that some guy was looking in cars, and then the cops came and they had interactions, and it got kind of, he started resisting. Lo and behold, now we have the shooting. And all we have is the shaking cam. Imagine if there's 5 cops, 4 cops. I think there was at least 4 cops. Imagine having 4 different perspectives of that shooting and be able to see. And it turns out that it was a big kitchen butcher knife. Okay. So it was, probably, 7-8 inch fixed blade.
Yep.
Imagine you're watching the body cam, you're interacting with the guy, and you see the big butcher knife come out. Okay. And a cop gets slashed with it.
And the taser isn't working.
The taser
and then what do you got to
work.
do? Because you can't put them in a chokehold. They're resisting arrest. You got to subdue them before another officer gets hurt or worse.
Yeah.
And you pop them.
And now we just have mob rule.
Yeah.
Now we just have, because honestly, when you do look at the video, of course, any shooting doesn't look super great as far as like when you see someone get shot. Like humans are not supposed to watch people die just right, on the street. Okay. But if we had that body cam footage, it could have cleared up so many things. A lot of these shootings that, the BLM just hasn't been able to get something going as far as like protests, because most of these things, it's like the next day we see the body cam and like, well, probably shouldn't charge at police with a gun or something.
Right. And we saw this in a couple scenarios. I think one that really stands out to me was in 2024 during the RNC, where you had a guy with severe mental health problems, but also I think they had a firearm. I can't remember the whole thing there without looking it up, but he was inside the RNC zone and he had either some sort of weapon and he charged at officers. Officer shot him. Yeah. They were exonerated because they did the right thing. They disarmed a criminal and took him down. But of course, they wanted that one. Like with the RNC in Milwaukee right there, they wanted that one so badly, and it didn't. Right. And it didn't pan out.
And we did when we saw the body cam footage from that.
Exactly. But we got to talk. You mentioned the press conference. We got to talk about this because it was probably one of the most pathetic, embarrassing things I've ever seen from a police force. And again, speaks to the fact that even the Madison police force is a bunch of woke progressive leftists with badges. Madison Police Chief John Patterson's holding this press conference on Thursday, and then all of a sudden, someone we've talked about briefly and kind of made jokes about, Carlos Lamar Dixon, a write-in candidate from Milwaukee who has a lengthy criminal record and was stealing yard signs of Francesca Hong and others.
Who would have thought that our knowledge of Carlos Dixon from weeks ago would come relevant again?
Yes.
Only those listeners of the New Fashion Conservatives podcast would know that.
But he took over the press conference and got away with it. And they just let him rant. And the police didn't stop this guy. They basically turned it over to him to go on these anti-Zionist, anti-Semitic, anti-police rant and just disrupt the entire thing. And they just didn't hold, instead of like kicking him out, they handed it over to the protesters, which is a theme that's coming out of Madison and the Madison Police Department. They turned everything over to the protesters and they just let that happen. And, instead of like addressing anything or stopping this guy. But yeah, he came out and it just, destroyed this event because he's trying to craft his own narrative, get his own, earned media. And they have, him and a gal, I think, was holding about corrupt cops deserve to die too sign, like just, real great stuff coming out of.
And I believe that sign, it's going to bother me now that I can't find it, but I'm pretty sure they said it was like Kill Peterson, which is the name of the cop, which they already have the cop's name, which means they probably already have his address.
Yeah. They're trying to dox him if they haven't already.
I'm sure they probably are if they haven't already. But the thing about, so it was funny at the press conference, you could see he brought the Milwaukee County Communist Party.
Yes.
So that's who it was. So Madison, you guys are getting showed up, first of all, by Milwaukee. Where's the DSA people at? To come crash I would expect that from Madison, maybe less so from Milwaukee. But yeah, this dude's insane, of course, literally schizophrenic, probably. The police chief's talking, and then the Carlos Dixon's jawing at him and yelling. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna take this, and then goes on a rant. And what does the police chief do?
Jack shit.
Just steps over to the side and does nothing, and just lets him go. And this is the Madison way. That's
such a chicken shit thing. I'm sorry.
You can't. Brown bodies are speaking right now. Black and brown bodies are speaking. You cannot. You have to step aside and just basically take it. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can say, because then you'll risk escalating stuff, and we can't escalate it. Therefore, we just have to let them do this. It's the most backwards stuff in the world. And I hope liberals, I know there's some liberals out there, I've seen some of the takes that said, we tried this in 2020. It didn't go well.
Yeah.
Normal people thought this was insane. And why are we doing this? So obviously it hasn't gone super crazy. There's no one, I haven't seen any, cars on fire, flipped over, burning couches, burning dumpster fires. I haven't seen any of that, but I don't know. Regular people, I just think absolutely see that. Like, no one else is interrupting the press conference except for these absolute insane people. Why can't they put the kibosh on it? Well,
now
it's Madison.
The family of Corey Ruiz has hired a race hustling bullshit artist,
Al Sharpton,
basically a wannabe Al Sharpton named Ben Crump, who is an ambulance chaser for these black shootings, where he's focused on Trayvon Martin, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Michael Brown. He's like the guy that you hire to sue the police, and that's his entire MO.
It's entire MO, and he makes good money probably doing it.
Yeah, and of course that money never goes back to the families because he's got to take his cut.
Well, speaking of what cut he'll take, I mean, maybe some predictions. Who knows what'll happen? And of course, I've seen some narratives online where it's like Derek Chauvin wasn't charged until after the Minnesota or the Minneapolis police precinct was burned down. So basically insinuating we have to burn down stuff in order for them to charge this cop.
Yep.
Which is dangerous, obviously. That's called mob. It's literally mob rule.
It is.
Like, we're intimidating you to do what we want. And if you don't, we'll just destroy stuff. So we'll see what actually happens. I mean, it's still very fresh. They say they're still having an investigation. They haven't released any other details. But from my perspective, the burden of proof that a cop needs in order to use lethal force is pretty broad, and the dude had a knife. So it's like any injured cop. So like, I don't see much that he's going to be able to do. So what are they going to do? They're going to sue the city of Madison in civil case.
And Madison's going to bend over. They're going to roll over on. And
I mean, of course they'll probably have to fight it a little bit, but then eventually they'll just probably acquiesce, and they'll probably get a take.
They'll probably name a street after this guy.
Yeah. Well, and they'll probably get some money out of it too. So, just looking over into the future a little bit when we inevitably talk about this at some other point.
But we got to talk. There's, again, so many things on this one. Want to shout out to friend of the show, JS Opinions, who is like monitoring the situation closely. It seems like they've almost tried to set up an autonomous zone where they've blockaded things off and created a space, but there's no like.
They haven't named it yet.
Yeah, it's just kind of like a hangout. It's certainly not violent. It's not. It's just garbage piled up on street corners to block off a certain area right now. But of course, Madison is allowing it to have it.
It's like the art. It's like an art show basically right now. You got people bring out the grill, making food, smoke token, making chalk drawings. Got your vigil, and they brought the fist from George Floyd Square. Yeah. They brought this decrepit art project made out of plywood, and
I think it's actually pretty shitty looking.
I mean, it's just plywood painted brown and put on a plywood stand. Anyway, they brought that down from Minneapolis, apparently. So at least so I've been told. And put it right in the center. Everyone's writing on it or whatever. Or maybe they made a new one. I don't know. Don't take my word from that. I heard that from a secondary source.
Sure.
Needless to say, there's a big art project and everyone's writing on it. However, I did see someone wrote on there, Tom Tiffany would have stopped this, on there. So God bless that patriot. But yeah, this isn't quite CHAZ or CHOP for those that are veterans of peak woke from Seattle, where they were like making gardens and stuff and just insane stuff.
But then they stopped policing it, and it became a incredibly a war zone, a Somalian level war zone.
Yeah, multiple people died.
Level, yeah.
Multiple people died. There's probably all kinds of drugs and just horrible stuff. So Madison took the alternate approach, and instead of saying, guys, okay, you can have your little protest, but move it along eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Now, no. The city of Madison's like, we are staying as far back away from this as humanly possible. I don't think if I'm in the head of the Madison police chief, that a single officer goes out in Madison unless they need like an actual call. You're not doing a patrol, and you're certainly not going anywhere near the area where this happened. But the city of Madison instead took all the trash cans and they lined them up on the roads and closed off the roads, and then put dump trucks, lined the dump trucks up instead to block off the streets, so that they're just blocked up. So the city of Madison said that they would be this intersection would be closed till further notice, which is basically another word for indefinitely, until they feel that they can maybe shoo these people away, or maybe they don't. I don't know. Maybe this just goes on for a couple of weeks. I have no idea. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, but there has been a little schadenfreude with this one again, because going back to the day it happened, the protesters immediately went and shut down concerts on the square, which is, a thing where a bunch of limousine liberals go listen to classical music with their, white wine and cheeses and spotted cow. And some of the pictures out of there were just incredible. And I think, credit JS Opinions for, I don't know if he took it, but he shared one of them that got a ton of likes. And it was very clear that, all of the people there were going to have to go put out their hate has no home here signs and Black Lives Matter signs, so their houses don't get destroyed when the pro Corey Ruiz folks are marching through. I mean, it was just such a perfect encapsulation, I said, of progressivism's voting blocks. You have the limousine, white, affluent liberals actually having to stare down the socialist proletariat that they've been goading into and supporting for years. And it's funny. It was like you saw that more recently. They were marching down, I think it was like King Street or something. And people are eating outside, and one guy goes up and starts clapping, and one of the guys walking by there gets in his face, and everyone else is just like, I want to have my brunch. And this guy's cheering, old white guys cheering him on, and looks like he's actually being, aggressively about to be attacked or something by the people who are actually doing the protests. You had some, again, overweight white guy saying, legalize black lives or something like that. I
saw that.
Yeah.
Gosh, what the heck?
Like they just want to be allies so badly and hold up the fist and put on the little.
They just so badly don't want to be called racist. But this is very par for the course. However, I did want to also mention briefly the takeovers are fully on themselves, of course. They've allowed this to fester, the DSA's effect. And it's kind of, for a while, it's just kind of like, we vote the same way, but they're kind of beneath us, the limousine liberal, of course. Yeah. But they're these guys are very serious. They're not joking around. And for example, they had put out, and this isn't like a formal, but through the live streams, you can ascertain what they're demanding. And so these protesters were demanding arrest the police officer involved in the shooting. Okay, sure. Pretty obvious. B, hand all evidence of the shooting to the Civilian Oversight Committee.
Oh, okay. Sure.
So,
sure.
Some background on that. Madison is so progressive to transparency. They don't get body cameras. However, they have the police department, and then they have the independent, investigative inspector office. I can't remember. I'm butchering that name right now, but it's some government entity that oversees. It's like a fire and police commission. Yeah, I'm assuming, but
this is like a paid person.
Yes, this is a big wig position where they investigate the police essentially if they need to. It's like people always talk about the ivory tower or the internal affairs, investigating stuff. This is an outside entity that investigates stuff. The Civilian Oversight Committee has oversight over the inspector's office, which has then, jurisdiction over the police and such. So we have layers of bureaucracy here. Okay. Got to give it to the libs. They love their committees. They love their little quasi-government
and
entities.
they love creating jobs for people that don't deserve them.
Of course. And so their second demand is they want to hand all the evidence of the shooting, not to the investigative, the actual office that they created, to the Civilian Oversight Committee. Okay. And then on top of that, hand all disciplinary action over to the Civilian Oversight Committee. Or in other words, mob rule again. This cop is already guilty in their eyes. They want to fire him. They want to send this guy to jail. I mean, they want to do it, arrest, fire, probably even more based off of their yard signs, based off their signs that they created for these protests. So that's the level of insanity that we're dealing with here with these protesters. And then my personal favorite is the Civilian Oversight Committee. If you look into it just a little bit, you'll find some interesting stuff. For example, one of these people that was leading the protest, her name is Mika Glass.
Yep.
And she is the president, of the Madison Police Civilian Oversight Committee. Okay. And she called for people to take the streets until justice brought for Corey Ruiz. Guess how much she gets paid? A whopping $12,000 a month. A month.
It's a six-figure. That's $150,000.
That is a lot of money for someone that has already made up in their mind that this police officer is guilty and they deserve the chair, essentially. And that's taxpayer money. And there's like, what oversight are you actually providing when you're just the judge, jury? She wants or at least not necessarily her, but everyone wants this board to be the judge, jury, and executioner. It's a very democracy focused, if you will. No, it's not. It's just mob ruled. It's always been this. It all devolves into this. At least some of the liberals, like the mayor and maybe some other highfalutin ones, like to keep their little semblance of power, mainly because they're in those positions of power. It's usually how it works. But yeah, this gets me a little riled up. But just know that the liberals are letting the insane run the insane asylum a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
And at least right now, while there are basically mobs walking around Madison, they are not violent. They have not started burning cars.
Honestly,
and torching
good for
things.
them.
Yeah.
So far.
Yeah. The bar is so low that as long as they're not actually destroying stuff. They're
However, so based off the live streams that are streaming stuff, there were people that were doing some stuff. I think there were some reports of, some dumpster fires and stuff like that. However, those people that are live streaming and that are covering this are choosing not to show that because they want to keep the optics as well. Again, we haven't had any major reports of like actual, vigilantism or,
they're just ruining a lot of people's nice summer weekend nights and
of course they're disrupting traffic. They're blocking all kinds of stuff. They've had there's multiple videos of them kind of getting into it with pedestrians, or not pedestrians, but motorists, which of course, when you look at the videos, they also look like they're liberals. Okay.
Oh yeah. One of them's like, I want to go protest with you. I just believe in this so much and Black Lives Matter, but please let me drive my car.
Yeah. They don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Yeah.
You voted for this, honey.
Right. This is, yes. And of course, for anyone who's white, who's trying to do this, like, you're not doing enough. You will never do enough to appease the mob. So just, we'll keep watching this. We'll see how things go. Hopefully it stays non-violent for the most part. And, but I truly think that, like, this isn't woke 1.0 anymore. This isn't Summer of Love, George Floyd. This is like, there's a lot of exhaustion on these sort of things from a lot of normal, the normie voters are going to look at this and be like, we already did this. I was behind it then, but now it's been 6 years. And can we not go through this whole, racial thing again? And I don't think this will win the hearts and minds the way it may have in 2020.
I think kind of my final statement on this is it has gained national attention. And I think in a George Floyd period where we haven't had we haven't lived through the Minneapolis riots, the ICE Minneapolis riots, among other things, this could have actually, propelled itself into national, more than national, like just, the groundswell that the George Floyd stuff was. But I'm just not seeing it. It doesn't feel quite like it's going to break containment. It has a little bit, but it's like some days it's above containment. I mean, I know it's only been like 3 days, but it seems like it hasn't quite broken containment. That sometimes it does, then it hasn't. And this is a voting issue for liberals and just max turnout. I hope Francesca's maxing out the turnout. You know, kind of harnessing that energy that from these people to, hey, vote for me. You know, we'll put an end to this kind of stuff. But if it does pop off, the biggest winner obviously is Tom Tiffany. You know, who gave a very measured response about this and said, you know, it obviously looks bad, but you know, we want to make sure that the investigation, you know, goes to completion and that we're not jumping to conclusions like so many other politicians, you know, have in Dane County.
That was the smartest statement, is like, let's see where this is going. Let's let the
Which is how they all should be.
Yep.
You know, unless we have body cam footage and the dude, you know, slashed an officer. Okay, well, I'm not surprised that he got shot then. But that's another thing.
So can we get to some candy?
Yeah.
So first thing I want to do is I want to shout out friend of the show, friend of ours, Megan Novak. She's working hard at AFP. I don't know if you know, this AFP hit 500,000 doors knocked already. So they are working hard. I think we're going to have Megan on very soon. You know, we wanted to have someone from AFP on for a while now. I know there's a couple of people from AFP that really want to come on. I think we'll do it hopefully in the next couple of episodes, you know, especially if we have can get our live stream going to live react to the gubernatorial debate. And that's the plan, because that is coming up on Tuesday. Do you, Shadow Gov, do you have any thoughts on what you want to hear out of that debate? Or are we gonna...
There's so much. There is so much. I just want it to be an absolute catfight. Just a bloodbath. Just drawn blood left and right. I'm hoping that someone tries to make a home run swing and just drop some absolute nuclear bomb on someone. Like drop a new story that no one's ever heard of. It just drops that into the water table and see where it goes. Watch the live reaction. Watch the people sweat. Honestly, the more chaos, the better. So there's so many things that could happen. You know, maybe Francesca Hong does what I think will happen is Francesca Hong will just stare at the camera and just talk to every voter. She won't pretend that no one else is there. Typical of the front runner, and just watch everyone else kind of try to attack her or attack Mandela. I mean, the thing is everyone's got their own polling that says, you know, if you do this and you do this, you can win. And that there's 5 of them and they all have different. So we might see those strategies kind of come alive a little bit more.
You know, I will say this. It wouldn't surprise me if Francesca Hong has a scheduling conflict or kidney stones or heartburn or, you know, whatever makes up. Because if you're far as ahead as she is, like, you can only go down. Like, I don't think you can really, I think your ceiling in the primary is 37%.
I do think, though, her base is all about, you know, she's not afraid to do anything. She can take on these establishment Democrats. So I think she has to.
Well, yeah. Well, anyways, we'll have to see how that goes. But, you know, hopefully Megan can join us on an episode very soon and talk about all the great work that AFP is doing. We've promoted a couple of the events before, and I've been to some. I've been to some of the trivia. I've been to their Doc Hounds event, which was fantastic. And, you know, I guess anytime I can either play pub trivia or watch a baseball game with a bunch of like-minded folks, they're doing well. But, of course, they're not just having fun. They're working hard, knocking doors, and hopefully delivering results for us come November. So one of the other things I saw this, and it was actually pointed out by someone who was on I think the DSA left, but there was an event in River West today, and Mandela Barnes and Francesca Hong got matching tattoos, which is usually something you do when you're a couple, not when you're broken up. There's this, you had to explain it to me. So it's RW, but it doesn't look like R. I thought it was birds. I thought it was the Wu-Tang symbol.
Honestly, I didn't know what it was either until I investigated the comments and oh, River West. Okay. Milwaukee neighborhood. I guess that makes sense. I do think it's a bit interesting that people just kind of get tattoos on a whim.
Yeah.
Really not my
I'm not a tattoo guy at all.
Yeah, so. I'm really not a tattoo person either. I mean, I always thought it might be kind of cool, but usually I just think it's a projection of, something.
But, yeah,
but I mean, that's not, I'm not sliding against anybody that has them, but if you're just getting a tattoo randomly, like on a whim, I don't know.
Yeah, well, they both got these matching. It's almost the same spot on their body, like lower
Back of the
calf,
leg,
back
yeah.
of the leg, this little River West 24 thing. Again, very cute that they're still getting matching tattoos, and maybe they'll bring that up at the debate. So I don't know if you saw this as well, though. Former NFL great and CBS great commentator Tony Romo was arrested.
Wisconsin native.
Wisconsin native from Burlington. Got popped for a DUI. He was in town to play a 4-day amateur qualifier for, I think, the U.S. Open. And he didn't do so well. He finished 73rd. He was 35 over for the tournament, which,
Yikes.
if I was golfing in a tournament and did that badly, I might have a couple drinks after the round as well.
Or maybe he drank because, it's probably why he was drunk to begin with.
Yep. And so, he'll have to pay a fine for that. But he has his mugshot out there. And
it was just kind of unexpected news. And of course, whenever athletes, get run-ups like this, it makes national news like wildfire. And so everybody, all the local news were, Tony Romo got under the influence, got caught by the cops for drinking and driving. And just kind of interesting. I kind of forget that he's a Wisconsin native.
Yeah.
I always forget that.
Well, Wisconsin native with an OWI or DWI, like, it's pretty normal.
Yeah. Civil infraction.
Yeah, exactly. But I want to take a moment here. We at the New Fashion Conservatives are mourning the loss of someone, Dick Porn. Dick Porn of Altoona, Wisconsin, died earlier this month. Dick Porn is survived by his son, Peter Porn. Our thoughts are with those who are closest to Dick Porn. You can tell Dick Porn was loved by family and friends. But all jokes aside, very unfortunate name. I saw this come up on X.
It's a real thing.
It's a real thing. There's a man. It was Richard Porn. That was his name. Now, maybe he doesn't pronounce it that way. I hope he leans into the jokes and is okay with us.
I mean, I don't think
this
is the first time someone's discussed his name before.
Yeah. But he actually seemed like a pretty cool and caring dude. A very long obituary. He started tending bar at 12. Served in the
based.
Served in the Army National Guard from 55 till his honorable discharge in 66. Member of the Knights, the Elks, the VFW. He had a big family and lots of friends. Seems to have led a great life. And it seems like it seems, based on that obituary, it seems like it'd be really tough to not like Dick Porn.
So that was completely Justin's idea. That he loved that obituary. Great guy, stand-up guy. Very unfortunate name. Maybe that was, what were his parents thinking? I just don't understand. I guess you do have to kind of lean into it at that point. But my goodness, I'm glad people are remembering him for his charitable work, and maybe not because of his, the connotations behind his name. But rest in peace.
With that, we want to thank everyone again who's been tuning in and making this pod such a great success. If you like what you hear, make sure to leave us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. We'll read your reviews on air. If you like what you hear, maybe you want to read what we're writing, we're over at the Heartland Post. We've got a couple of great shows coming up. Like I said, we're planning to do a live reaction to the Dem debate next Tuesday, so be on the lookout for a live NFC pod. And of course, if you want to learn more about us or have any questions, hit us up at Gmail at newfashionpod@gmail.com. Find us on Rumble, YouTube, and Substack at New Fashion Conservatives, on X at New Fashion Pod, and have a great Monday.